Welcome back to Tech Stack for all you tech enthusiasts. In this video, we will cover attribute directives in Angular 21. First, we'll understand what an attribute directive is. Then, we'll look at ngClass and ngStyle. So what is a directive? From Angular 2 all the way to Angular 20, we have used the concept of directives. There are two types of directives in Angular: structural directives, attribute directives. In structural directives, we had ng, if, and ng for. These are now deprecated because we have control flow statements like if and for. However, attribute directives are still the same. We still use ngClass and ngStyle. These directives help us apply dynamic CSS classes and dynamic styles based on conditions. Before moving ahead, as you know, Angular recently released Angular 21. We are covering Angular 21 from scratch, so if you're a beginner or intermediate, this series will be highly recommended for you. We have also provided the Angular 21 playlist in the description for easy access. Open the Pages folder in the integrated terminal. Now, create a new component called Attribute Directive using the Angular CLI. This will generate a new component where we'll work with ngClass and ngStyle. Open app-routes.ts and add a route for the attribute directive component. Once the route is added, we'll be able to access this page directly through the browser URL and from the navigation menu. Open app.html and add a link for the attribute directive page in the navbar. This link will let us navigate to the attribute directive component directly from the menu. Open attribute directive.component.ts. In the imports array, add ngClass. This will allow us to use the ngClass directive inside the template. Now, add a variable called myClass and assign it the value bgPrimary. This class will be used with ngClass to apply styling dynamically. Now, bind the class to the div using ngClass. This will apply the bgPrimary class to the div dynamically. Now, run the project using ngserve. This will start the development server so we can see the changes in the browser. As you can see, it's working correctly and the bgPrimary class is applied. Now, change the value of myClass to bgSuccess. This will update the div's background dynamically when rendered. As you can see, the background is now working perfectly. Now, we will apply ngClass based on a condition. Now, create a Boolean variable called isActive and set it to false. We will use this variable to conditionally apply classes using ngClass. Now, we will create a button and use ngClass to style it dynamically. The button will have the btnSuccess class if isActive is true. Otherwise, it will have the btnDanger class. This way, the button will change its appearance dynamically based on the value of the isActive variable. As you can see, the button background is btnDanger because isActive is currently false. Now, set the value of isActive to true. This will update the button's class dynamically and change its background accordingly. Now, we will change the button background on click. Let's create a function called toggle activation. This function will toggle the value of isActive between true and false each time it's called, updating the button's background dynamically. Now, we will bind the toggle activation function to the button's click event. This way, whenever we click the button, the function will run and toggle the isActive value, updating the button's background dynamically. As you can see, the button click is working perfectly and the background changes dynamically. Now, create a variable called marks and set its value to 50. We will use this variable to demonstrate conditional styling with ngClass. Now, create a paragraph tag and display the marks variable inside it using interpolation. Now, we will apply ngClass to the paragraph to style it based on the marks. If marks is greater than 50, the paragraph will have the text primary class. Otherwise, it will have the text danger class. This way, the text color will change dynamically based on the marks. As you can see, the marks are shown in text danger because the value is 50. Now, change the value of marks to 61. This will update the paragraph's class. As you can see, the marks are now 61, so the text is displayed with the text primary class. Now, create an input field and bind it to the marks variable using two-way data binding. This way, whenever we change the value in the input, the marks variable will update automatically and the text color will change dynamically. If an error occurs, it's likely because Forms module is missing. To fix it, open the component file and add Forms module to the imports array. This will allow ngModel to work correctly for two-way data binding. As you can see, when we change the marks, the color of the paragraph changes dynamically based on the value. Now, add ngStyle to the imports array. After that, we will apply dynamic CSS styles directly to elements using ngStyle. Now, create a new variable called backColor and set it to an empty string. We will use this variable with ngStyle to apply dynamic background colors. Now, create an input field and bind it to the backColor variable using ngModel. This will allow us to type a color value, and the variable will update automatically. Now, create a div and applying style to set its background color dynamically. This way, whatever color we type in the input will be applied as the div's background in real time. As you can see, when we change the color in the text box, the div's background changes dynamically as well. This approach works great as a color picker, allowing you to change the background color in real time. We can also use ngStyle with a variable object to apply multiple styles dynamically. Now, create a variable called myCSS and assign it an object with multiple styles. Color, background color. We will use this object with ngStyle to apply multiple CSS properties dynamically. Since color is a single word, we can use it without quotes. But background color contains a dash, so we have to wrap it in single quotes. Now, create a div and bind it to the myCSS object using ngStyle. This will apply all the styles from the myCSS object dynamically to the div. As you can see, it's working perfectly and the styles are applied dynamically. Now, change the value of background color from blue to any other color you like. This will update the div's background dynamically. For adding dynamic styles, we use ngStyle. Directives in Angular allow you to modify the behavior of existing elements. Each directive has a unique operation. ng, if, adds or removes an element based on a condition. ng, for iterates over a collection and renders elements. ngClass adds dynamic CSS classes. ngStyle add dynamic CSS styles. In addition, we can also create our own custom directives to extend Angular's functionality. If you're passionate about learning new technologies, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Tech Stack, and keep learning new skills. Thank you. And remember, consistency is the key to success.